like what the guy did. I'm gonna help out my team a little bit from this step because remember, you may don't need you may I like what he's doing, I like what he's talking, but we're gonna need a little something different as far as Python, right? That's gonna be ours in the NP problem later on about why it should be Python, right? Makes sense. Gravity works. This cowboy's telling me in the coding language is tracking alpha and opening up the secret stars to exponential idle here about what secret stars are at this very, very base and very, 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 very base mechanics of this NP problem over here, and a few other things that you'll deal with. I mean, if I need to, at the time, I didn't necessarily know C#, Java. I knew Java was in there, and Python. I think actually I did. But there are some other variances on what this whole programming does. Remember, so when I'm talking about the Python, you actually would have a real need to have a Python saw if all right, well, let's get back up to this. See, this whole thing is a setup about what the logic may look like if I designed a physics engine to do it. So let's get him to
Step 2.1. Learn one programming language deeply. The language you use to learn programming doesn't have to be the same language you eventually use at work or even in your personal projects. But it's good to know one language really well, like your go-to. If you took CS50, you've been exposed to a bunch of languages, but for now, I'd recommend Python. It's the most beginner-friendly language, and for the most part, it reads like English. The data structures are really intuitive, and it's not verbose. It isn't typed, which isn't ideal, but you can always use linters to optionally add typing. And this is probably the language you'll want to use for coding interviews, so it's good to get comfortable with it now. To actually learn coding in Python, there are so many great resources out there. For now, you're going to want to focus on syntax and data structures, so follow an online course or look up some tutorials on YouTube. Make sure you learn about control flow, so if-else statements, basic logic, and or not,
if,
loops,
L,
for and while loops,
not,
and objects, classes, and other object-oriented programming principles. In my opinion, these are the highest yield topics. And for data structures, don't worry too much about crazy optimized red-black trees and whatnot. For now, focus on hash maps and arrays. Once you have a basic command of Python, move on to the next step. Step 2.2, learn scripting. Sometimes there'll be stuff you're doing that will feel really manual, like data manipulation or renaming files. Or sometimes you just want to write code to produce code. You can write scripts on your terminal through bash scripts, but hopefully by this point you understand some Python, so you can leverage it to automate some of your daily tasks. For example, let's say you want to grab data from a CSV file and generate an insert SQL statement that you can copy-paste into your database console. And imagine there are no nice libraries that can help you do this. It would take hours if you wanted to do this by hand. But with a simple Python script, you can generate this entire command, copy-paste it into the database console, and you're good to go. You basically wrote Python code to generate an SQL query string. That's awesome. The great thing about scripting is you don't have to spin up a web app or worry about hosting your server. You can just write Python code. And writing more and more Python will make you better at it. Coupled with a coding mindset, you now have a practical tool to solve some of your daily problems. Step 2.3, create a personal project. The first thing I do is sign up for a hackathon. In-person is best, but virtual is fine too. This is much like signing up for a marathon, so you feel motivated to go out there and train.
If you're learning the code, I can almost guarantee that you're taking the long road instead of the short.